Okay, so chapter 4 review, numbers 1 through 3. Now these are a little bit more difficult. This is section 4.7, piecewise functions, basically kind of looking at two pieces of certain functions and kind of talking about some of the things that we can information we can gather by looking at either the equations and the conditions or the graph. So number 1, which is f of x equals, and it gives us two equations, negative 1/2 x plus 2 if x is greater than 2. The other equation is negative x minus 2 if x is less than or equal to 2. So in order to do what we're being asked, which is to talk about or state the domain and range, the input values and the output values that make this true, I personally, the only way I can see, or the easiest way to see, is to create a table, and I'm going to do this on line paper, and then to actually graph it so I can kind of visually see what it is that I'm looking for, and it just helps me recognize the domain and range. Not everyone doesn't necessarily have to look at a graph, but I just find it's easier. So I'm going to move to the paper here, and so let me just write this out quickly. So f of x equals, and we have this little squiggle here, negative 1/2 x. The word squiggle there isn't a technical math term, by the way. If x is greater than 2, and then negative x minus 2 if x is less than or equal to 2. So what I would do first is, we watched a video on this twice, or at least it was the same video, but we watched it twice. I would make a table and kind of think about what I have in front of me, and I'm noticing that they're talking about our conditions here, either it's greater than 2 or it's less than or equal to 2. And so I'm going to kind of have 2 as my area where I'm going to be like, all right, I'm going to use it for this first equation here. Okay, I'm going to use that here, and I'm going to give me a couple more x values that are greater than 2. So maybe I use, let me use 4, because I'm looking at the fraction, and I know that just kind of makes it a little bit, come out to a nicer answer. That's not a fraction or a decimal. So I'll use 4, and I'll use 6. Now you could have used 3, you could have used 5. I'm just going to use these because it'll work nicer with 1/2. So when I plug in 2 here, 2 times negative 1/2, well, or half of 2 is 1. It's going to be negative 1. Negative 1 plus 2 is 1. I'm going to put 4 in here. Now, if you want to see what I'm doing, this is what I'm doing here. Negative 1/2. I'll put 4 in there. Plus 2 is going to give me my y. Half of 4 is 2. Since this is a negative half, it's going to be negative 2 plus 2. That's going to be 0. So my new values are 1, 0. And if I put 6 in there for x, half of 6 is 3, so that's going to be negative 3 plus 2. That's a negative 1. So I can graph these 3. Let me graph them right here. So I'm going to go 2, 1. And I'm not going to worry about open circle, closed circle just yet. I have a feeling, since this is x is greater than 2, that this is going to have to be an open circle. And then 4, 0, so 1, 2, 3, 4, right there on the line. And then 6, negative 1, 5, 6, here's negative 1 right here. Yeah, so this is going to be an open circle because it doesn't include it. X is greater than, but not equal to 2. So our line, you can see that, let me move it up here. Sorry about that, is going like this, okay? Not equaling 2. And so let's go back to this side. And so we're going to look at some x values that are less than or equal to 2. Well, here's 2 again. Let's go with, Now 1, 0. I guess we could throw in a -1 there. So negative, so let's look at this. Negative, and then we're going to plug in 2. So -2 minus 2, that's -4. And we're going to plug in 1. -1 minus 2 and be -3. Plug in 0 minus 2. -0, 0 minus 2, that's a -2. We put -1 in there, -1 minus 2. That's +1 minus 2 is a -1. So we got -3, -2, and -1. So let's plot those. Let me put these, which we're going with that equation right there, and then I'll plot those. And since x is less than or equal to 2, I'm going to go to my first one, 2, -4. So 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to be a solid line. And then we have 1, -3, 1, -3, and 0, -2. Wait a minute. 1, -3. That's not right. Oh, +1, -3. Sorry. Okay. I got a phone call, and I don't know how disrupted this is, but when we plot the points, that was 1, -3. I made a mistake. Should have been here. And then 0, -2, 1, negative. And so our line is going this way. This is going to help me see my domain and range. My domain is my x values. So as I cruise down the x-axis, what's happening, since this, has an arrow on it, so this is going to keep doing this. So all of these positive x values are part of the domain. We're here now going the other way, that going smaller on the x-axis, this way. We keep going, this keeps going up, so eventually it's going to, everything on this side is included. So my domain is all real numbers. My range, which is my y values, well, let's look here. This one is starting here, and it's going down gradually, but it's going down. So as my y values come down, they're always going to end up with something down here. So the same thing's happening. And then as my y values, my range goes up on the positive side of the y-axis, this is increasing up. So whenever we have a y value up here, we're going to be able to find the corresponding x value. So that means my range is also all real numbers. That's number 1.